All right, so we're going to move on to number 7. This is, again, test 1, section 3. With number 7, this is one of these problems that looks super complicated. I mean, you look at it and they want you to solve this for p. Now, they're not even telling you to solve it for p, but if you look at all your answer choices, you'll see p equals, p equals, p equals, and so on. So you're solving for p. So what I want you to do is not look at this crazy equation. They're never going to make you work with something this crazy. There's got to be a simpler way. And that simpler way is to really think of this function, or not this function, this equation, as m equals, and just pay attention to these. This is just your numerator, and this is your denominator. So this would just be a divided by b times p. Because they're wanting you to solve for p. So in essence, you're taking this fraction and you're moving it to the other side of that equation. In order to do that, all you would need to do is multiply by the reciprocal, which would be b over a. So you're going to multiply the top or both sides by the reciprocal, so these would all cancel out. And what you want to do is find the answer choice that takes this fraction and just has it flipped. If it's flipped, you've found your answer. In this case, that answer where it's flipped is going to be b. Again, you take a look at that one, you'll see that this is now on top and this numerator is now on bottom. And that's where you're going to get your answer for number 7. A lot simpler than they want to make it seem. They want to make this seem impossible, but it's not. Next up, we have number 8. So all they're doing here is pretty straightforward. So a over b is equal to 2. And they want you to find 4b over a. Now, you want to see the relationship between number 8, where they, or the first part, number 8 here, where they say a over b is 2, because you need to look at it like this. If a over b is 2, think of that as 2 over 1. So b over a would equal 1 over 2. Again, the b goes with the 1, the a goes with the 2. Same thing happening here. So when we come over here, what we can do is we can just take 4b over a. We're just going to call that 4 times 1 over a, which is 2. Now again, you could have changed these numbers as well. You can call b like 2 and 4 or something like that, because the fraction is always going to come out to 2 over here if you had it flipped. But obviously, we want to keep this as simple as possible, so why not call it 1 and 2? It's already what we have. But anytime they're asking for fractions, you can plug in multiple numbers as long as the ratio is equal to 2. We're cool. But anyway, I'm just going to keep these numbers because why not? Now, when I'm plugging these in and I'm simplifying, this is just going to equal 4 over 2. 4 over 2 is 2. And in that case, your answer is going to be C. So that is number 8. Keep it moving. Number 9 is just this is where your system of equations are going to start popping up. You'll see a couple of them in this section. We have 9 and 11, and you are going to get some pretty straightforward ones. When I say straightforward, that means they're just going to give you a system of equations, say what's a solution. Now they do get more complicated than that, but this is the bare minimum. It's going to be a medium level question, and that's kind of where we're at this point. So this one, they just say what is the system of the solution to the system of equations. So we want to pick a method to solve. That method that I'll go with will be the elimination method. Again, there are multiple ways you can use substitution if you want to solve this for x. But I'm going to go ahead and take this second equation and I'm going to multiply it by 4. And that's going to allow me to, actually I saw that's an x. Let's multiply that actually by 2. And the reason why? The y here, it's kind of mixed up, but you see I want these y's to match. So if I called this, multiply this by 2, that's going to give me a 4y, which means I'm going to be able to subtract these equations. So the first equation I'll just copy down. So let me just go ahead and move that here. That's going to be 3x plus 4y equals negative 23. Now pay attention because I'm going to reorder these terms when I multiply because I want to stack these. I'm going to go 2 times negative x, so that's going to be minus 2x. And then 2 times 2 is plus 4y. and then 2 times negative 19 is going to be minus 38. So now I got them stacked, and it's a little bit easier to solve at this point. Because these are both positives, I'm going to go ahead and subtract these equations. It's going to allow me to eliminate the y. So the y's end up canceling. We have 3 minus a negative 2. That's going to end up being plus. So that's going to be 5x. Over here, I have negative 23 plus 38. So we're adding 38. So it's really like doing 38 minus 23. So that's going to be 15. And now we just divide by 5. So that's going to give me x equals 3. Now normally when we do these, there's only, all your x values are going to be different. I'm thinking maybe College Board's like, if you can get this far, you're obviously going to get the y value. Let's not waste your time, which is probably a good little strategy to take. So B is the only one that has 3 for x. I don't have to find the y. So always check that, because you may not have to find y. So we just, B is 3, negative 8. That's the only one. And that's your answer for number 9. Next up, we have number 10. They're giving you this function right here, and then they're telling you that g of 4 is equal to 8. So g of 4 equals 8. Now, the reason why they're giving you this is they're basically giving you an input and an output, because we're not going to be able to solve this problem because we have 2 unknowns, one of those being that a. Otherwise, I have 3 unknowns. I have an a, an x, and a y. So this is impossible to solve unless I can eliminate one of those variables, which I can because they're giving me an x and a y. So I'm going to take this x and this y, I'm going to plug it in to this function. G of x is your output. So that's going to be 8. That's going to equal a times x squared. 4 is my x. 4 squared is 16 plus 24. So I'm going to solve this equation for a. I'm going to do that by subtracting 24 from both sides. So those are going to cancel. This is going to give me negative 16 equals 16a. Therefore, a is equal to negative 1. So now that I know what a is, I should be able to solve this equation because they want me to find g of negative 4. So g of negative 4, I can just bring it up here a little bit. So g negative 4, now that I know what a is, I can now plug this in. It's negative x squared. So that's going to be negative 1 times x squared. So we're doing negative 4, so negative 4 squared. Plus 24. So I'm just plugging that in. Again, be careful when you do this because all these negative signs, understand the order of operation works this way. I'm going to use exponents before I multiply, which means that I'm going to make this a positive 16. I'm going to take that positive 16, I'm going to multiply that positive 16 by negative 1 plus 24. So we're going to have negative 16 plus 24, which is 8. So in this case, my answer, which is 8, is going to be answer choice A. So that's going to be number 10. And that finally moves us on to number 11. Now this one is kind of a word problem, but it's fairly straightforward once you know what to do. You're just doing this with decimals. It is going to be another system of equations. Now, I would be able to realize this before I even read the problem because, I mean, what other reason would you have 2 equations with 2 unknowns in them? Now, they're trying to throw you off a little bit because, you're used to having y equals, and this has b and c. So one thing you're going to notice when you read this question, they're saying b and c represent the price per pound in dollars of beef and chicken. But and x represents the number of weeks, but say what was the price per pound of beef when, and the key here when you read the question, when it was equal to the price per pound of chicken. So these are going to be equal to each other. So it's really like just doing this. You can just call these both the same thing. So we just call them both y or b or c or whatever. They're equal. They want to know when they're equal, what's the price. So that's that second part I'll get to about the price, but let's just solve this first. So these are equal. That's what they're telling me. So I can solve this using substitution because these are the same, which means these equations are equal to each other, at least at the time that I want to solve it for. So I'm going to set these equations equal. So I'm going to go 2.35 plus 0.25x, that's that first equation, equals 1.75 plus 0.40x. So I'm going to solve that for x. To do that, I'm going to subtract 0.25x from both sides. I'm going to get the x's on one side. So those are going to cancel. I'm also going to subtract 1.75 from both sides. And those are going to cancel. So when you do the 1.75, so this is going to be 2.25 be 0.5, and you subtract, so 0.6. Just pay attention. Think of this as like 235 minus 175. Subtract it that way. It might be a little easier for you. And then over here, we're going to set that equal to, and that's going to be, think of this as 40 minus 25 with a decimal in front. So that's just going to be 15. So 0.15x. So when you divide these, divide by 0.15, 0.15, and x is going to equal to, think about how many times 15 goes into 60, and that's going to be 4 times. Now that doesn't mean that's my answer. You have to pay attention to what we're looking for. Always, this is one of the steps I learned a long time ago. When I think I'm done, I go back to the question and double check, is this what they wanted me to find? In this case, it is not. They said, what was the price per pound of beef? Now again, beef and chicken, at this point when we're solving it, they're equal. So, but I'm looking for the output. That's what they're asking for. You can go ahead and find B if you want, but remember, B and C are equal, so if you want to plug in and find C, you found the price per pound of beef because they said they're equal. So anyway, I'm going to find the output, not the input. So now that I have the x equals 4, I need to plug it in and figure out what the y value is. So you can pick whatever one you want. I'll pick B just because most people probably do that because they're talking about beef, but remember, it doesn't matter. So B is equal to 2.35 plus 0.25 times 4. It's actually probably better to plug it in there anyway because 0.25 times 4 is 1. So this is 2.35 plus 1. So 3.35, which is the amount of money that it costs. And in this case, that's going to be D. And that is number 11.